Hello everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture, and for the first time in what feels like forever, Sean is back!
Hello! It's very good to be here.
It feels like it's been a really long time. Maybe it has. When was the last time we spoke on WhoCulture? Probably season 1.
It probably was, actually, now they say. Yeah, probably discussion video after Empire of Death, I'd say, was the last time. The last time they allowed me to be here. No, yeah, but no, it's great to be back.
It's exciting, and we've not got long until the Christmas special.
This is very true. This is very true.
So glad the Christmas specials are back.
Same. I mean, it's just part of Christmas Day, really.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy.
Very, very glad to have Christmas specials back. But before we talk about the Christmas special, because, you know, we've still got some time before that comes out. And of course, we will be discussing that once it is out.
Oh, God.
But the other week we put out a video talking about the 60th, and, you know, there's always speculation flying around about doctors, actors returning. And it is a question that always gets asked. And we thought, you know what, let's just have a bit of fun. You know, so why don't we go through all of the previous doctors and just have a little thought, a little think, and predict what are the chances of those doctors returning in, say, the next 10 years of Doctor Who. Let's include basically from now, so from Joy to the World, all the way up to and including the 70th anniversary special, which, you know, we've only just had the 60th, but come on, let's just look to the future.
I mean, that was a whole year ago, to be fair. I mean, like, we're nearly at the 70th. We're closer to the 70th than we are to the 50th, which is terrifying. Actually, as I've just said that out loud. Yeah.
Okay, more rules. So we're only going to talk about returning in the main show or like a proper televised spin-off, like The War Between the Land and the Sea or Torchwood or something like that. So we're not going to include Big Finish, because they'll all be back for Big Finish at some point, so that kind of makes this whole prediction null and void. And we won't talk about Tales of the TARDIS, because, again, that's kind of the point of Tales of the TARDIS. So.
I know Tales of the TARDIS was like, that's probably how it's going to happen, but okay, fine.
And the other rule is that we're only talking about the mainline numbered doctors. So we're not going to be talking about doctors like the War Doctor or the Fugitive Doctor or the Morbius Doctors. We're just going to talk about the main 14 doctors. I just forgot how many doctors
Justice
had
for Ruth.
then. I completely forgot how many doctors there were then.
Like, in fairness, going back to the name of the Doctor, the numbers are up to interpretation.
It gets a little confusing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's start with the first Doctor, but rather than William Hartnell, because obviously he cannot return, we'll go with David Bradley, who's kind of assumed the role of the first Doctor.
If we're doing this in percentages, I'm saying a solid 80%. There's a chance we will see him. I think we will see David Bradley's first Doctor again.
Interesting. Because I went way lower. I said 30%.
Why do you hate Filch?
Right, here's the thing. First of all, David Bradley is 82 years old. So if we're talking about the next 10 years, I'm thinking,
Oh yeah, like my 80% is like in season 2. Like, do you know what I mean? I'd be like, you know, might want to be soon. Just, and not to be grim about it, but just let the man rest.
But I also kind of feel like the return of the first Doctor has kind of been done now. We've seen him return. You know, there was a whole episode, Twice Upon a Time, literally was all about this return of the first Doctor. And I kind of, similarly to a lot of what I've been saying over the last year with David Tennant as well, is don't overdo it. It was so nice to have the first Doctor back, and so lovely and surprising and shocking and unique to the show to have the first Doctor return. But I don't feel like it should be overdone, and his story's kind of done now. And there's like 13 other Doctors that could return that maybe haven't had as much time to shine or had their moment to return. So in my heart of hearts, I think it's possible, not as likely.
Here's
The
a
only
question that may throw everything into question. Are you judging it on likeliness or what you would like to see happen?
probably likeliness
Okay.
and being sensible.
Hang on. Russell T Davis is running Doctor Who, and you're worried about sensible.
Well, this is true. The only thing I'm thinking about the First Doctor is obviously there has been this tease of Susan in season 1, which, you know, was a ruse, but there's a lot of people hoping that we are going to see the return of Susan. And it is more possible now than ever before with that storyline that we've just seen. But to be perfectly honest with you, if we were to see any sort of revisitation of the First Doctor in relation to Susan returning, I think it would be more likely to be archive footage of William Hartnell from actual episodes as opposed to David Bradley.
I get that as well. Like, School Reunion proved that you can have a different Doctor revisiting, and obviously it's happened since, but that you can have someone's iconic companion works with another Doctor. Mm-hmm. So I don't see any reason why Ncuti wouldn't work with if they got Carol Ann Ford back. So yeah, I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
Okay. Shall we move on to the Second Doctor?
Yes.
Now, in this instance, it would have to be a recast.
Yeah. Do you reckon they would get Rhys Shearsmith to play him? You know, considering obviously David Bradley carried over from An Adventure in Space and Time, and Rhys played the Second Doctor in that.
I mean, it's certainly possible. Although, again, we have to remember that in terms of like appearance and age, they were. An Adventure in Space and Time was over 10 years ago at this point, and so maybe Rhys Shearsmith fit the role then, but perhaps wouldn't be suitable for the role now. I don't know. But anyway, give me your percentage.
I am going to be very honest and say I just sort of plucked this percentage out of the ether because, as it currently stands, there's nothing story-wise screaming for the Second Doctor. I picked 60, and I have over 50% because it hasn't happened yet. But I think I'm sort of putting Adventure in Space of Time into that percentage as well, which we will discuss when we come to my ranking for the Third Doctor. 60 makes it sound like I think it's going to happen. I don't. But because they haven't done it yet.
Right. See, again, as with the first one, I am miles different to your prediction. I've gone with a very low 10%. I'm not sure if recasting all the classic Doctors is the right move. It worked once to do it with William Hartnell and then have David Bradley take on that role. But it's kind of like, if you keep doing it, what's that saying about your thoughts on those classic Doctors to just recast them when you want to reuse them? I just feel like it worked once, but if you keep doing it, it's the same thing with bringing, like I said, if you keep doing something, it stops being special and unique and important. So I just don't feel like that's the right move. If we were to see the Second Doctor return, I think it again would be more likely to be archive footage rather than recasting, in which case it probably wouldn't be in a very large capacity.
I think so as well, and also with the war games coming out as I think it's on iPlayer, right? I'm sure there will be a physical release as well, where they're doing the CGI regeneration as well. I'd say that's where they're going to, at least for the moment, leave the Second Doctor.
Yeah.
As opposed to working him into a story. Like, I don't think they're doing... this might age badly, but I don't think they're doing this now ahead of an appearance in season 2, for example. I know we're talking about the 70th as well, but... I mean, what was it the 11th Doctor said in the 50th? You know, is it the 100th anniversary? You know, all 47 Doctors or something, you know? But, yeah, and not to skip ahead, but I have 10% for the Third Doctor as well.
Okay, yeah. So I also have 10% for the third Doctor.
The only reason it's not 0 is because I haven't given up hope that Sean Pertwee will play the third Doctor, you know.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put a 0% chance on any of them because this is Doctor Who and there is a slight possibility of anything happening in this show. So there's no point ruling anything out. But yeah, very much the same as the second Doctor. I think the third Doctor, why recast them? Maybe use archive footage if it fits the story. Yes, there is Sean Pertwee, but he's also been very clear that he doesn't want to do that. So I don't think if he hasn't done it now, he's not going to do it. I don't think.
I think so. Maybe for a special, but yeah. Right, we're moving along.
Okay, fourth Doctor, the lovely Tom Baker.
0. I
Really?
think they might do archive footage, but so I guess as well, my logic being, if we're looking at this of them playing a part in the story, as opposed to like the end of the 50th, where technically they're all in it, but that's because it's, oh wow, that's some interesting promo shots you've got there where you've CGI'd them into. Like, I don't mean that. I mean to play a part in the story, 0%. This is going to sound awful. When the day comes where we are talking about Tom Baker in the context I'm talking about, but I don't want to say out loud, I think there will be, we will honor him, and I think that he will be remembered within the show. Very unlikely, and I don't think they're going to recast in the short term as well. I think it's a bit soon.
See, now that you've said that, I'm more inclined to kind of agree with what you've said. I mean, I put 15%, and the only reason I went slightly higher than the previous two is that he is actually still alive at this point. So there was a slightly higher chance than the other two.
There's every chance, but
the man is 90 years old.
But also, and I'm remembering the interview he gave about his appearance in the 50th, and it was,
yeah.
I mean, Tom Baker. Listen, whatever you want to say about the man, it won't lie to you. It definitely won't lie. It'd be like, so, how are you today? Everything is terrible, and so are you. Okie dokie, Tom. Thanks very much. Yeah.
I also feel like at this point, if they were gonna bring him back, they would have done so. He would have been in the 60th. He would have had a Tales of the TARDIS episode. You know, there was a lot of speculation that because he didn't have a Tales of the TARDIS episode, that he was going to appear at some point in the 60th or in season 1.
And also, I mean, obviously he didn't, but the fact they did the Pyramids of Mars and he wasn't in that.
Yeah.
I did. And as you say as well, the man's in his 90s. He's allowed to retire.
Yeah.
You know,
I always find it so strange. Like, acting is one of the few jobs where age does not dictate when you retire. Like, most jobs you get to a certain age and it's like, now I can retire. Whereas actors just keep going. Which obviously is a good thing, because could you imagine if all actors just retired at the same age that most other jobs would? Suddenly every TV show would never have anyone old in it.
And also, you know, David Tennant would be screwed for job security in, you know, every 10 years from now on. What do you reckon for the 5th?
Okay, so I want to kind of clump some doctors together. You may have different scores to me, but I'm going to clump the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th doctors all together here, and I've given them all a 60% chance. They are the doctors that we have seen return the most recently. They're also the 4 actors who all actually seem keen to return, and if the opportunity arose, would probably jump at the chance to do it. There are some actors who do Doctor Who and then they leave and it's not really part of their life anymore. These 4 in particular, they're always at the conventions. They'll take any opportunity to keep being within the Whoniverse in some way. With the exception of Paul McGann, the other 3 were all had Tales of the TARDIS stories.
Yep.
And they obviously all were in The Power of the Doctor.
Yes. So that was, yeah. So I've, going by, let's lump them together, my average is 33%, apparently. Thank you very much, Sheets, for giving me the average of that one. Because I have 8th Doctor, quite a high percentage. I have him at 80% between now and the 70th. I have the 5th Doctor at 50%. I just think, yeah, probably. And the 6th and the 7th, quite a bit lower. Because obviously we don't know what stories are coming, but as it stands, I don't know. I would like to see them, but yeah. But as an average, 33% I don't think is that bad.
This is very interesting that our percentages are complete opposites for pretty much all of these.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your percentage for the 9th Doctor.
The 9th Doctor, okay.
But put it this way, my 33% for all 4 of them is quite a bit higher than my percentage of likeliness for the 9th Doctor.
Yeah, I don't have it's higher than some, but it's okay. So we'll go to the 9th Doctor. I feel like we kind of skipped past those 4, but they're all kind of like they probably will at some point.
Also, I feel that with the power of the Doctor, at least in the short term, it's been done. Yeah. And we got good moments as well with them. Like it was when I say gratuitous, I don't mean that as in a bad way. Like it was really cool to see them. I enjoyed the Doctors of the Edge. I particularly enjoyed 5 and Tegan and 7 and Ace. I thought that was good.
But then we're talking about the next 10 years. So it's highly likely that within those 10 years, we may see them again at some point, especially if we're heading towards another anniversary.
That is true. I would really like to see how they manage to fit them in when you have to factor in David Tennant's screen time.
Yeah. Okay, so the 9th Doctor, I put 25%.
Yeah, that's higher than I gave it.
Well, there is a reason. At the moment, in the next, let's just say 3 years, highly unlikely. Like, let's go with a 2% chance. Because he will not return. He will not return under Russell T Davies. He's been very clear about that. We know that. But if we're looking in the long term for the next 10 years of the show, we're not assuming that Russell T Davies is going to stay in control of Doctor Who for the next decade. And so if it was under different leadership, Eccleston has suggested that potentially he might return if the circumstances were different. So although it's not massively likely to happen, there is a chance that it would be a higher probability once Russell T Davies isn't involved, which is likely to happen in the next 10 years.
I completely agree with your logic. I've given it a minus 100%. But I mean, I hear and agree with your logic. It's just that between now and the 70th, that would be, and I feel like a big Grinch saying that as well, but we're not seeing 9 before the 70th. And please prove me wrong. I would love to see him back.
Yeah, I think maybe this 25% is me just manifesting some miracle happening. You know, I just can't admit yet that we're never going to see Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor again. I think people probably would prefer to see him return than David Tennant again at this point.
I think so, because as fun, and I've really enjoyed all of David Tennant's cameos, but let's give someone else a run at it now.
And the next one's interesting, unless you have more to add for 9.
Not really, because I'm just I feel like I'm kind of hammering in the post of, well, it definitely won't happen. I really don't think it will happen. As I say, really want what I'm saying to be like, hey, Sean, do you remember when you said, yes, I do, and I'm delighted I was wrong? You know what I mean? Come
on, BBC, prove us wrong one more time, you know? We've got a little bit of a precedent of saying something is definitely not happening. We don't know it. It's, who knows, just for the BBC to completely contradict what we've said. So in this instance, we will happily allow that to happen.
100%. Yeah.
So the next one's very interesting. So we are talking about David Tennant, but David Tennant specifically as the 10th Doctor.
So I have 0 here because I have the 14th much higher.
Yeah, so again, I didn't quite go as low as 0. I think I'm just being hopeful that any will return at some point. And like I said,
Sure.
I don't think there's a 0% chance of any of them. Anything is possible. But I did only put 20% because, like you say, I think if David Tennant is to return, which is highly likely, let's never rule that out. You know, we didn't really think we were going to see him again for the 60th, and yet we got 3 episodes with him in. But I think if David Tennant is likely to return again, it will be in the form of the 14th Doctor now, which makes sense.
Yeah, the 14th is alive and running around and is his own Doctor. Like, yes.
And David Tennant and the 14th Doctor explained the fact that, you know, it's a new incarnation, therefore David Tennant can look older. I think trying to make David Tennant, you know, 20 years later, 30 years later, if we're talking about the 70th, look like he did when he played the 10th Doctor, things are going to start getting a bit iffy. So,
yep. I mean, even like, although there wasn't much time between the end of time and the day of the Doctor, the fact his hair was different.
Yeah, it just...
I mean, I remember like, oh, he doesn't look exactly the same as he did. This is it. Whereas the 14th Doctor, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I have 1% for the 11th. Now, that sounds grinchy. I just mean Matt Smith's a busy man. That's the only, like, it's not that I don't think, I think write the story, hopefully he would do it, but you'd have to try and fit it around his schedule.
Well, this is why, okay, again, we've approached this massively differently, but that's good. We like a little bit of variety. So that's why I put a 50% chance.
Sure.
It may happen, it may not. I think in this instance, it's not a case of him not wanting to do it. It's not a lack of willingness to do it. He's just very, very, very busy, and so it's entirely dependent on when and if he's available and it fits around his scheduling. Having said that, we're talking about the next 10 years, and with enough prep and planning, it would be very nice to see him perhaps return for the 70th anniversary. He is, with David Tennant, probably the most popular modern Doctor.
Yeah, I think so.
And so it would be a shame if we didn't see him.
And it's like, that's obviously not us saying that he's like the best modern Doctor. He's a fantastic one, but he was the Doctor when it hit America.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh,
I think a lot of people would see Matt Smith as their Doctor. So let's go with a 50% chance.
That's sort of my logic on the 12th. I've got 50 on the 12th. I think it's slightly less likely, but also allowing for 10 years. Because Peter Capaldi has been not like, oh, I never want to do that show again, blah, 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 blah. But he's definitely said, I did my tenure.
Yeah, which is why I only gave him a 30% chance.
Fair, yeah.
I think there's a higher chance of us seeing Matt Smith return than there is of Peter Capaldi returning. And I think, to be honest, I think part of it might be like a generational thing. He is much older than Matt Smith, and I think he's the kind of actor that approaches something like, I really want to do this. We know he's a massive Doctor Who fan. He always has been. He got the opportunity. He took that chance. He did it. Now it's time to move on. I don't see him as the kind of actor with that kind of sentimentality of wanting to keep returning. I think he likes to close the door on things once they're done with. So again, we can't entirely rule it out. We do have 10 years. It's possible. He may change his mind later down the line, especially if it's something to do with an anniversary. Perhaps for the 60th, it was maybe too close to his departure for him to feel like it was necessary or warranted. But who knows what might happen in the next 10 years. He might change his mind about that.
Because I'd love to see a 12/9 story. Love to see it.
It would just be so angry.
It would be. Yeah, attack eyebrows and genocide. Like, okie dokie. Could we not do all the genocides, please? There's only like 5 Daleks left in creation. Flux happened, folks. You know, like, but yeah, that would be interesting. Speaking of Flux, I've gone very high for the 13th. I've got 80%.
Interesting.
Because just so much of Jodie's story is open-ended.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't feel, I don't know, like, I feel like there's so much they kind of need to address. I get Flux, for example. And it's not that it was rushed, but yeah, it does feel like I really enjoyed Power of the Doctor. It
started to actually get going right at the end.
Yeah, it did a bit.
I gave her a 50% chance, the same as Matt Smith, for similar reasons. I think it's likely that of all the Doctors that haven't returned yet that could, Matt Smith and Jodie Whittaker are the most likely. But again, they're also the most busy. And so, again, it's massively dependent on scheduling. A lot of the more like the classic Doctors, you know, they kind of semi-retired from acting. They do the conventions and things, but that's kind of their only connection now, and their availability is much more open. Whereas actors like Jodie Whittaker, Matt Smith, they're still working actors, and Doctor Who only pushed them further into the world of stardom. So it's great that Doctor Who has propelled them into Hollywood and the likes, but it also means that getting them back to Doctor Who isn't as easie.
Agreed.
But I agree with you that 13's stories feel like there's more to give, and I feel like there was more that Jodie could have given as well. And to be honest, I think it'd be really interesting to see the 13th Doctor under a different showrunner and different writing. I mean, there were exceptions. I don't take this as me completely just pulling down all of the Chibnall era, but I do think that there were elements of it that just didn't quite work, and I think it would be interesting to see how the first female Doctor could have been had it been in the hands of somebody else, or maybe a female writer, for example. I think there was a lot of potential for the first female Doctor that wasn't really realised.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. I think I know we've done this to death, but the intentions were good. Some of the execution, yeah. So I mean, like, I've gone so high with it. Some of it is wish fulfillment. I won't lie, but I feel like, based on that, whether it's a special, whether it's just an episode, I feel there's a lot of fun to be had there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, I kind of just want to just walk into that companions support group and be like, "Hey, let's go."
Yeah.
Doctor? Don't mind me. I'm just going to make some tea. What were you saying? No. Yeah. Oh, I would, yeah. I've gone 50% for the 14th because I don't think it'll happen soon, but also it's going to happen.
14 has my highest percentage of this entire list. 80% chance that we're going to see 14 return. It was left open-ended. The story is there. I would not be surprised if we saw him return sooner than we might think because of the whole unit situation. You have the connection now. He's living with Donna. You have Rose appearing in unit. I just think that it's likely. But at the same time, please let David Tennant rest. I feel like it's highly likely to happen, but I kind of don't want it to. And that's sad because David Tennant is my Doctor. When he returned for the 50th, even when he returned for the 60th, I was so excited about it. But I'm now at the point where it's on the verge of being overdone. And I'm now at the point where instead of being excited about it, I'm kind of rolling my eyes at it.
Yeah, I hear that. Obviously, you're so harsh and you're just horrible, and please be nicer to poor David. But I jest because I'm right there with you.
Mm-hmm. And to be perfectly honest with you, although we've just gone through the chances of all of these Doctors returning, if I'm being entirely honest, I don't want to see any multi-Doctor stories for quite some time. In fact, I wouldn't be sad if it wasn't now until the 70th. And I would even be happy if the 70th took a completely different approach rather than just doing what everyone expects.
I think where I would like a multi-Doctor for the 70th is because, yes, technically, there's no technically about it. We did get a multi-Doctor story with the Giggle, but for Wild Blue Yonder, which is, I think that was the one closest to the 23rd of November. No, it wasn't. No,
it was the Star Beast.
The Star Beast was, yeah. The Wild Blue Yonder was the one we knew the least about. That's what it was. Okay. I do feel maybe a trick was missed there. But I suppose that was the expectation the 50th set up. So
Yeah.
that's not Russell's fault.
I just feel like it used to be that a multi-doctor story was exclusive to an anniversary celebration. That's how it always used to be. And so, yes, the expectation to have it for an anniversary, fine. But since the 50th, we've had Twice Upon a Time, which was a multi-doctor story. We've had The Power of the Doctor, which was a multi-doctor story. And I just feel, just the same as overusing David Tennant, I just feel like if you keep giving us multi-doctor stories, they stop being this special, monumental occasion and they just become the norm like everything else. And that's really sad because it's supposed to be a wow moment. And now it's kind of just like, oh, there's more doctors again.
Like, I wasn't around for the two doctors, for example, but that feels from the classic era, the one that was like, oh, okay, that's fun. Whereas the three doctors and the five doctors were like, okay, cool, this is anniversary, this is, big celebration, this is great. But whereas it's like, yeah, the two doctors was a bit like, why are we doing this? Not that I'm not saying it was bad, but okay. Like Twice Upon a Time, at least, was a regeneration story.
Yeah.
There was a reason for it. Same with Power of the Doctor.
Yeah, no, I don't totally get that the stories themselves were kind of different, but I just kind of feel like in the grand scheme of things, it's now become a little bit kind of normal to see multiple doctors in a story. And it used to be like an unprecedented thing. Like when there was multiple doctors in a story, it was like, what the hell is going on here? Whereas now it's just kind of like, oh, there's multiple doctors in this story. That's not unusual anymore. I want them to do something completely different and shocking and new.
I think I prefer multiple companions at this point.
Yeah, I feel like that could be more interesting to see multiple companions. Or I tell you what I really enjoyed, and I feel like we could definitely benefit from some stories focusing on. When in the Pandorica Opens, where you had all of the Doctor's enemies teaming up together to fight the Doctor, and that twist that the Doctor was the most feared creature, because we're all expecting some scary alien. But actually, to everybody else, the Doctor's the one they fear, because he's that one person trying to stop them all the time, and they're all just trying to live their evil lives. So I feel like that could be...
The Doctor's like, look, this is amazing, you're all teaming up, this is wonderful. Doctor, look, I know you like to paint a smiley face on things, but maybe not in this one.
Yeah, I just feel like that could be interesting to see kind of the team up of the aliens, the monsters in a way, just something different. I feel like it's a little bit like, you know how people often say, are the Daleks overused?
Yes.
That's what I'm starting to feel for the multi-doctor situation. It's becoming overused, and it's still an integral part of the show, but it needs to be just switched up a little bit.
I think we need more villains teaming up with more dance scenes, because there's an entire catalogue of Boney M that we haven't used yet. So, we've done Rasputin, so let's get the rest in. Was it Mary's Boy Child? Come on, in the spirit of Christmas, let's do that one.
That's next year's Christmas special sorted.
Brilliant. Cool. I don't know, I've got hope. Maybe Enjoy to the World, you never know. But yeah. One of the reasons I love doing these kind of what might we think might happen thing is because Doctor Who is nonsense. And I love it, because anything could happen.
Yeah. There's a discussion idea. Let's come up with the wildest theories possible just to see if they may end up happening.
Joe, okay, I've got one that definitely, it won't happen. Imagine, a regeneration where they don't die. That definitely won't happen. They won't have one where, someone regenerates, but we still keep that incarnation. That's, nonsense. That definitely can't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Wild, I tell you. Wild.
Anyway, we could sit here and do wild speculating all day, but...
And we will. Okay, cool. Put on the coffee now. I'm excited. I said, yeah. It's also nice to be talking Doctor Who again. Thanks for letting me back on.
Oh, that's okay. And you won't have to wait too long to discuss Doctor Who again. So the next time that you guys will see us both here together on WhoCulture will be after Joy to the World on Christmas Day. The video will not be up on Christmas Day, but it'll be up maybe Boxing Day, maybe the 27th. Keep your eyes peeled around then, and we'll be back with our usual spoiler discussion about Joy to the World and give our thoughts and feelings about that episode. So you don't have too long to wait. It'll be coming very, very soon. In fact, as of recording, it's 5 days away.
Oh my goodness, I have so much I have to do between now and then. But
well, in that case, let's let you get going. Thank you so much for chatting with me, Sean. It's lovely to have you back. Yay. I would get mine, but it's full of pens.
Whereas I had lovely go juice in it. Thank you very much. You are wonderful and awesome, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And to everybody else, have a wonderful Christmas, and we will see you after Joy to the World.
Bye.
Bye-bye.